Minjhani hinkwenu, hi mina Nyaxa Mantiva, la ta mi byela vumbhoni bya mina.
Thank you all so much for sticking around for our combined Sunday school. I'll tell you, as a speaker, it is so helpful when a speaker can see everyone together. So as we stand and sing in just a moment, if you wouldn't mind filling in these two center sections if you're on the main floor, and if you're in the balcony, maybe we can just go into these two center sections here so that our speaker can make eye contact and share God's work. If you would, let's all stand, move into these two center sections, either on the ground floor or balcony, and we will sing one stanza of Across the Lands.
Thank you for staying for our combined Sunday school with one of our fine missionaries with Open Door Baptist Missions. Let me just continue to put it before you that Morningside has a ministry of a local church mission board, Open Door Baptist Missions. It started in 1990, really as a project agency, but after a couple or 3 years, it turned into a sending agency. And we are thankful for how God has allowed Open Door Baptist Missions to partner with missionaries, their home church, and their donors, and the mission to send them to their field of service. So one of the fine missionaries that we have with Open Door Baptist Missions are the Meyers family. And they have 5 children: Caleb, Colin, Callie, Carson, and Cameron. And so we're blessed to have 3 of the 5 children with us today. And I've had the privilege, Paul and I, had the privilege of spending some time with their son, Caleb, who she referenced in the testimony. Very fine testimony, by the way, Amy. I'm over there with my hanky and wiping my eyes, and I can be a crier on a good story. But great challenge, too, to our moms to give their kids for what matters for eternity. Doesn't matter how big your bank account is if you haven't lived for God. And so great challenge, Amy, for our moms. And we're glad to have your family with us today. And it's been my privilege to spend some time with your son, Caleb. And you never know what God might do. We might have maybe for the first time, a second generation Open Door Baptist missionary. So that would be pretty cool. Seth, if you'll come now, and whatever members of the family you want to use, or just yourself, however you'd like to share with us.
Thank you, sir. Good morning. If you're getting drowsy, I'll try to wake you up. In 2003, I had the privilege of coming to Morningside and attending a candidate school for Open Door Baptist Mission. And I chose Open Door because it was free, and because you were separatist, because you were church planters, and because I'm a libertarian. So other mission boards said that I had to submit requests if I wanted to make purchases over $500. I had to get permission from field councils if I wanted to move. I could not go to certain countries if there were not already 3 previous missionaries there. And Open Door said, we're basically like Rand Paul as as far as mission boards go. So I said, I'll do it. And you have not yet kicked me out. And I'm very grateful for the service that you have done for us for those many years, although you have raised the price, understandably so. And I don't begrudge 1 penny of the 4%, that's practically nothing compared to other boards, is Mr. Grimm here. If you're here, Miles, how's that for marketing? Open Door is doing a great job, and we're very, very grateful for you. John Burnett, we love you, and we thank God for you. And for this church sacrificing for such cause as that. And I pray that the Lord will richly bless you now and in eternity. For 22 years, we've been in South Africa, but we prefer to say the Tsonga-speaking people because South Africa, as most African countries, has numerous language groups in every country. The country borders were drawn by the colonial powers, as was South Africa, so they have numerous language groups. So our language group would be Tsonga-speaking people. That would be roughly 8 million. So about 3 million or so would be in South Africa. About 4 million would be in Mozambique. If you say, I failed in geography, just think of it like that. South Africa, Mozambique, basically touching. We're in the richer country, South Africa, where you can buy cheese, you can use Visa cards. So, and it's more developed. And then our son Caleb, Lord willing, would be interested to go to the Mozambique, where it's significantly poorer. And yes, the 4% greatly attracts him because he's as tight-fisted as me. Faith standing in the power of God. Can anyone guess what book of the Bible that's from? That your faith should not stand in the wisdom of men, but in the power of God. 1 Corinthians 2, verse 5. Our goal is to raise up missionary children, converts, disciples, whose faith would stand not in the wisdom of men, but in the power of God. That's our goal. So we are against rice Christianity. Rice Christianity was a term adopted after Charles Gutzlaff and a British diplomat began working in China in the 1800s before Hudson Taylor was sent out, and he paid with his salary many, many Chinese converts, only to find out at the end of his life and after sacrificing much of his salary that many of them were false. They were pretending to be Christian to get the cash from Europe. And he died very discouraged and dismayed that he had wasted all his money because he gave it without heart change. That is, he gave it with a good heart, but cash can't buy conversion. That sounds like a sermon right there. And so we labor to plant churches in such a way that their faith would stand not in the wisdom of men, but in the power of God. That is demonstrated when we are gone. So this morning, since it's a time gap, I received on our Magic phones a video of members of some of the church plants walking to church, and he took a video as they were walking up the hill with about 8 or 9 people trailing off behind who were all walking up to the one church plant. And I rejoiced because that's that. Faith standing not in the wisdom of men, but in the power of God. So what has God been doing, or a work of grace among the Tsonga people of South Africa, 2026? Here's a few things. Tsonga, I talked about that already, 8 million. 1875, Presbyterians went there and translated the Bible because the Presbyterians are just plain clever. They translated the Bible. It took them 54 years, though. 1929 is when the Bible was done. So 54 years. Can you imagine church for 54 years without a Bible? But it was okay because during that time they were trying to, sew dresses and things to, you have to affect everything, all right? So this verse on the bottom, whoever abideth not in the doctrine of Christ hath not God, is from 2 John, and it's in the video, but for time, I'm skipping the video. So if you want to see that video or things like that, come to my next church. But that video is me driving along with this guy. See, I thought it might not do that. Bink. Can you hover on that and click on that video? And then when I tell you, click off it. Or I guess I can use this. Oh, go back. Bink. Will that video play? I'm not techie and don't really care too much about it. So, okay, that's a video. If you want it, well, you can't get it. Okay, we'll just stay there for a minute. I'll just talk about it. That video is one of many I've made. Just driving along, I picked up a guy. He's hitchhiking. We pitch up hitchhikers all the time. So we're speaking in Tsonga in that video. I evangelize him for about 10 minutes, and then I say, would you mind if I video it? He says no. So speaking in Tsonga, I just hold up while we're driving and just said, if you die, where will you go? And he says, I would go to God. How do you know? And there's no Christ. He says, it's because of my lifestyle. And he mentions nothing about Christ, nothing about being born again, nothing about the church, nothing about the Bible. But yet when I say, are you a Christian? He says, yes. And then I say, now, why would you think you're a Christian? Well, I just said, I have a life. Yes, you do have a life. There's no Christ. So at the end, I said, what did you forget? He says, I don't know. I say, well, if I tell you, then you're going to say, oh, I knew that. But it's interesting that you don't tell me before I told you. So I'll give you one last chance. What is it that you've forgotten? I didn't forget anything. You forgot Jesus. Yes, Jesus. What did he do? Wait, yes, he is the Son of God. Yes, he's the Son of God. What did he do? Yes, he does everything. You've forgotten what he's done, so it proves again why you forgot him, because he's not in your heart. Brothers and sisters, that's the conversion of Africa. In the back of my car is a book I was given at the last church. In the front page of the book, it says, a great revival is taking place in Africa, and overwhelmingly, Africa is becoming Christian. That's one of the first lines in the book. Thankfully, the author has a little bit of sense, because in the third paragraph, he says, but for some reason, it has not affected their culture. He's exactly right, because it's not conversion. True conversion brings about a change. 2 Corinthians 5:17. If anyone's in Christ, he's a new creature. Old things, they're basically here the same, but you got a new name. No, they're passed away. All things have become new. Without regeneration, there is no Christianity. That is the problem with Africa. And we want to be missionaries such that by God's grace, that would be changed. So, 3 tenets of most Tsonga churches, because there are churches all across Africa. That's the first paragraph of the book I just referenced. Didn't I just reference a book? Are you sleeping yet? There was a book that's in my car. First chapter says there's a great revival. That's because there's churches all across the continent of Africa. But those churches believe this. 3 things in their doctrinal statement. Is this you? Oh, by the way, let's start with the red on the left there. Church of the Jugs is way back in the back. I gave these people a lift. That's my pickup truck on the right. And we were coming from the village way back there. And I was driving along, and they were walking back from church, so I gave them a lift. I'm sorry, Josh, you can just tell me if that's ethical or not to give people a lift from and to false churches. I can't tell. Is it love? Oh, I'll win them by love. Or am I supporting them? Is this like Billy Graham all over again? I don't know. So I gave them a lift, and I dropped them off over there. And on the way, I asked them, oh, are you Christians? How do you know? And guess what their answer was? See the previous slide, okay? So Church of the Jugs, it's named Church of the Jugs because they bring water jugs to the church and bang them for their music. That's why it's called Church of the Jugs, all right? This one is called the Zion Christian Church because they had a missionary from Zion, Illinois, which is 10 minutes from where I was sent out in Schaumburg, Illinois. The missionary was from Zion, Illinois. He came, but then he had to leave, and it's totally syncretistic. These people, they pray to their founder. Everyone in the Zion Christian Church has pictures of their founder in their home, but they're very high. They have to stand on chairs to put the pictures up very high, and they have to pray to that picture. None of them read their Bibles. That's the Zion Christian Church on the left, Church of the Jugs in the back. There's no conversion. But there are 3 things that almost all churches, whether it's prosperity religion, which is a false gospel, no more Christian than Islam, or these syncretistic churches, which is no more Christian than Catholicism. If you're Catholic, we love you. We love all Catholic people, but we're talking about doctrines here and teachings. So there's 3 teachings that are very common in African churches. Number 1, concern for this world only. Now, because we're like a university town, eudemonistic. Thank you. Eudemonistic. Eudemonistic is a word that I didn't know until I read a book about African culture. Eudemonistic describes African traditional religion. It is the word that means concern for this life only. Does that sound like people in Greenville? Or maybe in some other Baptist church down the road? Well, they need to be born again too. But the churches here would hold, almost as a doctrinal belief, concern for this world only. So their prayers are about, how can I get healed? How can I get a job? How can I have a baby? Their prayers are never about, how can I be converted? How can my sins be forgiven? How can my children be saved? How can I get a Christian wife for my son? But your prayers, I'm sure, are spiritual because his seed abides in you, right? Concerns for this world only, eudemonistic, doctrinally vague, syncretistic. Remember, we're a university town, okay? Syncretistic, that means the blending of 2 ideas, so the blending of Christianity and the blending of African traditional religion, or animism. So syncretism would be their doctrinal vagueness. So I wrote a tract in Tsonga and translated in Venda and Shona, the other language groups near us. And the Tsonga tract, the first question is, it's a multiple choice question. The first question is, who is Jesus? Letter A, man. Letter B, God. Letter C, both. People constantly choose man. Sometimes they choose God. Almost no one chooses both. It's like I wrote it right there. And I'll sometimes even point them, okay, well, you could choose both. You don't have to, but you could. No. Both. How could someone be both? You can't do that. Okay. This is common, very common. And the tract goes on with basic questions like that. So very doctrinally vague. No African churches have doctrinal statements, except ours. Fearful of spiritual powers, that is animistic. Animism, very simple. Animism is the belief that there are many spirits, but none of them are on top. What would your world be like if you had many gods, but not one who is absolute? That's Jehovah. I am that I am. That's the doctrine of the absoluteness of God. There is nothing beyond or past. Nothing can change, hinder, or affect or alter him. He is he in himself, by himself, unaffected by all else. He stands by himself in the augustness of the great Jehovah. But when you are animistic, you believe that there are a great number of spiritual powers, and they all have power on their day. And you can't tell whose day it is because they can't reveal themselves. You can reveal yourself if you are a Father and a Son and a Spirit. And if the Son is the Word, being eternally communicated by the Spirit. So these terrible churches have these doctrinal tenets, and I can talk a lot longer on that. And if I were so inclined, I should probably write a doctorate or something, but no, not me. If I were Paul Schleland, maybe. Guy's got 2 doctorates. Here's a cross-section of Northeast America, 2,372 churches found in this particular church search. If you know of a better church search, let me know. I just found this one. All those green dots are churches that teach Jesus is God, believe in him, and you'll be saved. All those churches, 2,372, and I had to zoom in on that, okay? Next is all of Europe. Ready to see all of Europe? Look at the number, memorize the number, 2372. How many digits? That's Europe, Western Europe. You can't see it. You're back there in the cheap seats, maybe you in the front can see it. It's Britain on the west, and then over in the east, it's Ukraine. 239 churches. See the number? Percentage. Tell me the percentage. There's a little pocket of America, not just the Bible Belt, little pocket of America, including Pennsylvania, and there's Europe. What percentage? Amazing. Now let's go check out Africa, which is a much bigger, I'm gonna expand geographically. So a much larger geography, and there's Africa. Now you say, yes, but there are many churches that are not on that list. Fair enough, there's many churches not on that list. But don't you think it's something like proportional? The number of biblical churches in Africa is very rare. Here's what we've been doing. This is in South Africa, up at the top. So is there a pointer up there? No. Very top, you can see Zimbabwe. Well, you can't quite see it. At the very top of the map there is Zimbabwe. On the far west, or the left side, is an X, or an asterisk. That asterisk is where Amy and I built our house, as she mentioned in her tear-jerking testimony. She can tell you many more stories like that, by the way. We used to live at the number 1, and we moved to the asterisk in 2015 after that home invasion. So we moved out. We now live in a city, and we drive from the asterisk the whole way out to number 5. That's a long drive. And that's why you can be thankful you're not paying me, because I'm wasting all your money on diesel. But that's what we're doing right now. So these are the Tonga church plants that we have made over the last 22 years. So there's roughly 8 of them, and 2 of them are indigenous. So I'll show you some pictures of those ones right now. So you see number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and they're moving roughly from the west to the east. Number 1 starts at the very beginning of the Tonga-speaking people group. So Tongas start that's the furthest west, something like strategic. We start on the farthest west, and we're gonna move east. Mozambique will be over there by the leafy shrubbery. So our son Caleb wants to live in the bush, literally the bushes, and we are living over here. So the further you move east, you're gonna get more people group, more of the Tongas. So we speak Tonga, and we're with the Tongas. Now you see there's 2 roads there. There's a road, you can see the road going north to the east, but it's above that, and then there's a road going to the east, and it's below. So there's an east-west road that's on the top, and an east-west road on the bottom. The bottom east-west road is the Tonga people group. Then there's a mountain range between those 2 roads, and the top is the road for the Venda people group. I can speak a little bit of Venda, and I speak Tonga, but we haven't done much church planting across the mountain except for that one, Valdesia, pardon me, Valdesia Rock Baptist. That's number 3, church plant number 3 there. Mainly we're doing the Tongas as we head eastward, and we're passing by the Vendas because the Vendas have so many hard sounds in their language. And my wife said, please don't take me to 2 language groups. She's really, really clever and really good with languages, but I thought, you've done a lot. We won't take you to a 2nd language group. So we're planting churches in this way. Here's some pictures of those. No, there's not pictures yet. I'm just getting started on furlough. I don't know my presentation. We've done 8 church plants. There are 99 church members. We usually have 150 people or so on a Sunday morning at all the church plants. But of those, there's 99 members, 5 pastors. Currently, we have 5 pastors. 4 of them are being trained. But there is 0 transfer growth. I think that's maybe the biggest difference, or one of the biggest differences between American churches and South African churches. When we say there's 99 church members, we led them all to Christ. Or, in a few cases, 4, 5, 6 people were led to Christ by Tsonga people after we led the first one to Christ. But none of them were saved before we came. And I don't know of a Christian who was saved before we came. There may be some, but I preach on streets. I drive and travel a lot among the Tsongas, and I have not met someone who would simply say, oh, I'm trusting in Christ and I'm proving it by not living with my girlfriend before I'm married. Simple tests. 9 second-generation Christians so far, but they are all children of members. To this point, we have seen 9 of the children of those who've been converted who have also come to Christ, and we thank God for that. And we saw a testimony 2 Sundays ago while we were here. One of the young men who's 16, he gave a testimony. It's on the next slide, but I don't think it'll play either.
Minjhani hinkwenu, mina Nyasha Mantiva. Lata mbyela mbhondzo wa mina, abingazani kuma kereke ya ntiso haleni. Ndziri. Nizamile ku tilulamisa, ni tibyele leswaku a ni kahle, a ni ri kahle. A ni tikukumusha ni ri karhi ni lava swa mina ntsena. A ni nga pfumeli eka Yesu Kreste hi mbilu ya mina hinkwayo. A ni rhandzangi Hosi Yesu, naswona a ni tivangi ku Hosi Yesu a sasekile fika kwihi. Ni rhandzile swilo swa misava, ni rhandzile swidyoho swa mina. A ni vengangi swidyoho swa mina. Ni zondzile van'wana. A ni tsaka loko ni vona van'wana va holova kumbe va lwa. A ni nga rhandzi kurhula. Kambe sweswi hambi ni nga hetisekangi, ndza mi byela ndziri. A na ha fani na khale. Na pfumela leswaku Yesu Kreste u file a tlhela a pfuka. Hi mbilu ya mina hinkwayo. Ndzi tsakile ngopfu hikuva na tiva leswaku Hosi Yesu wa fele swidyoho swa mina. Hi sweswo ndzi tiva ku va ni rhandza. Ndzi lunghile ku va fela. Hikwalaho ka Kreste ndzi tshunxiwile eka nawu wa ku boha. Ta n'wi hanyela. Sweswi ndzi rhandza yena ku tlula swilo swa misava. Ndza n'wi rhandza hi mbilu ya mina hinkwayo. Ndzi lunghile ku tshika swa misava hinkwaswo ndzi landza yena ntsena. Ndzi pfuniwile swona ku vona leswaku tsariwile ra vumbirhi hi marito ya Xikwembu eka Varoma 9 verse 9 and 10 na khensa.
That young man is 16 years old, and he was converted by street preaching. And we preach on the streets in one particular village, and he's actually from Zimbabwe, and he speaks Shishona. It's another language, but they rushed from Zimbabwe because it's so poor into small villages. And they came into this village with his mother and multiple children, and he's in this village in a very poor house. He hears a white guy preaching. My kids were there. So after we finished preaching, we played soccer on the streets, and he came and played. We have this rule that if you come for 10 weeks in a row, we give you a free Bible. He came for 10 weeks, each time to play soccer. At the end, he got the free Bible. And we said, each week we'll ask you how you're reading. Start here in Matthew. He started. He finished the New Testament about 3 months ago. But then that was 2024, January 2024. So he came 2024, 2025, December 2025, his mother said, you have to go back to Zimbabwe because of all the difficulties with travel. So he just left and went back to Zimbabwe, but there's no churches. So he said, what do I do? What do I do? And I said, keep reading your Bible because the Holy Spirit will not forget you. So he and I text on WhatsApp, and we're texting back and forth. So 2 Saturdays ago, I get a text from him, and he says, I think I understand now. Romans 10, he meant to say Romans 10 there, not Romans 9. Like, we love doctrine, but he didn't get saved from Romans 9. He was saved from Romans 10. He's reading Romans 10, and he says, he told me this 2 Saturdays ago, I think I understand now. It says, if you confess with your heart confess with your mouth the Lord Jesus and believe in your heart. So I'm believing it in my heart. So what's lacking then is like confess. Can I confess over what's up? Because there's no churches here. I said, man, confess any way you like. The angel's here. So he sent that video 2 Sunday mornings ago, and we passed it around, and Brother Hoffman, we cry too. That's what we want, conversions, don't we? I think that young man has truly changed. Could I tell you his story and the fruits we've seen? We praise God. There is fruit coming there. Here's the Elam church. That's the first one, if you remember the chart, going there. Number 1, see number 1 right there? We're starting with number 1. That's Elam Baptist Church. We built that church building back in 2011. But when I say we built it, I mean physically we built it, but we didn't build it with our cash. The cash from the people built it. So we didn't ask for money from America. In fact, in 2011, when we began building, we had a men's meeting every Saturday night, and we said with the new believers, should we write to America and ask them for money so that we can build the church? And every single person said yes, but in my heart, I knew I'm never doing that in a million years. Like, I'm dying before I ask America for money. And they all said yes. And I said, well, let's just start and see what we can do. By 2017, we had built that building, but it wasn't plastered outside. They have since plastered it. That is a picture from last year. So they built that building by themselves. In 2016, before we put the roof on, we had the meeting again every Saturday night. We're having the meetings. We had the meeting again and said, should we ask America to send money for the roof? And the man who's now the pastor, he's in the middle there, Alpheus. He's standing right in the middle with the purple shirt or whatever in the center. Alpheus said, we've learned, I'm translating from Tonga, and I wrote this down because I despise exaggeration in missionary reports. We wrote it down to make sure we get it exactly right. And Alpheus said, no, we don't need to write America. We've learned that we black people aren't stupid. And can I tell you that's exactly right? If you're made in the image of God, you work hard, you can raise yourself. You don't need to, people don't need to pretend, well, you can't do it. We can do it, but you can't. No, we can all do it with a Bible in the Spirit and hard work. And they did a great job. And they built that church, and it's their church. We don't go there anymore. We love them, but we don't go there because we're doing what Paul did. He planted churches and left, right? The Apostle Paul, 14 churches, 12 years. We're trying to be like him, although we've done like 2 churches in 22 years, so who's great, you know? Make missions great again. On the left is a pastor from another church, but we'll get back to that. So this is Elam, and those banners in the back are the 5 solas of the Reformation, Bible alone, Christ alone, to God alone be glory, grace alone, and faith alone. And my wife sewed those because she does so many things. Like, we should get salary for 2 missionaries probably. Did I say I hate exaggeration in mission reports? That video is an exaggeration because the implication is that's one church. It's not. That's a joint service, which we do 3 times a year. We try to get all 8 church plants together 3 times a year. And so that's all the church plants. But when all the church plants get together, it's commonly a meal paid for by the people, which means you get lots and lots of people on the side. So it's tricky, see? So I'm just telling you, that's all the people, but within that's about 80 Christians who took the Lord's table. So about 80 believers, not counting missionaries, took the Lord's table on that day, and that's a great encouragement. Here's the same service, but from outside.
Flow in the preaching.
I think that service was the largest congregation of believing Sanghas that I've ever seen in my life. That is, of that people group, I don't know if there's ever been a congregation of believing Sanghas who's ever gathered in one place more than that particular meeting. But that was all the church plants gathered together, and we thank God for that work. Baptisms after the service. A little work day at the Elam Baptist Church. But the best thing about this work day is that it was inspired by the members. So a few of the young men said they want to clean and work at the church and then have some fellowship So they paid for some food. They're cleaning up, and I came, but I'm not doing anything important here. Just watching as the men are trying to be Christians themselves. So we built that building, but we didn't, there's no town planning laws, there's no zoning rules. We just took a piece of paper and said, well, how about we make it like this? And we didn't know how to build, so we searched YouTube, how to build. Paul Schleyline bought a book, How to Build. So we read the book, watched some YouTube videos, and went out there. But there's no cracks, so I think it works. But this church is now indigenous. It's selfish. It stands on its own. It doesn't need us. We don't go there. We love them. My son Carson really likes them. So every couple weeks he'll say, Dad, can I go to their church? And then we drop him there as we're going to one of the other church plants because he really likes them. And we're glad of that. Over the years, we've done a lot of work with books. So 1929 is a Bible translation, 89 second translation. Talk about version wars already. 2019, we did a catechism that's on the right, that little green, gray, whatever color you call that on the far right. That's our catechism, 135 questions and answers from the Bible. And then on the left, that Mbilu Yabu Kreste, the blue book, is the songbook. So I made a songbook, but because I am not musical, I made a songbook with the lyrics. So the Swiss, that is the missionaries, the Presbyterian missionaries I told you about from 1875. Are you still with me? Did anyone forget slide 6 or whatever we're at? Can't forget these things because it's supposed to be a logical sequence. So they made this songbook. The songbook is on the right. But how many of you play a musical instrument? Please read that music on the right. You can't because it's tricky and it's hard. We can figure it out. But Amy, she's really clever and clued up, and we don't say clever and clued up. We say that over there in British English. I don't remember what. She's very smart. And she has a degree in all those things. Think of how quickly she could have done it if she got her degree from the right school. Sheesh. But anyways, she figured out how to read the musical notation in the book on the right. That's one page. That's A Mighty Fortress is Our God. She figured out how to read that. That's the book they made in 1962. It has about 300 songs, 350 songs, but about 100 of them are Christian and about 200 of them are liberal because they joined the World Council of Churches in the 1920s. So they began falling away pretty quickly. So many of the songs are work very hard and life will be good. But about 100 of the songs are A Mighty Fortress is Our God, like that one. So we took about 80 or so of those songs. She figured out the musical notation, worked night and day because I don't allow her to sleep. And she just published, the day before we flew out, she published the first Tsonga hymn book, which when we say hymn book, we mean it has musical notation. Because she's now teaching several Tsonga women to play the piano, and there was a piano at that last church. If I skip backward, you can see, but I won't do it because you're all getting tired. There's a piano there, so about 3 Tsonga women being trained? 3 Tsonga women are being trained, and they can plunk out things with the right hand, which is better than me. They can do that, and has the guitar chords on the top, so if you play an inferior instrument, like me, ding-da-ding, C, D, C, D, so you can do that. And then if you are raising yourself to finally become civilized, then you can 88 keys. So thank God for Amy doing that. EBC is a selfish church. That's the Elam Baptist Church. It's selfish. When I say selfish, self-supporting, self-propagating, self-governing, self. That's what I mean by selfish. 33 members, pastor deacon building, 1 deacon, 1 pastor. 2017, the missionaries left. They do verse-by-verse teaching, and they have a regenerate membership. On a Sunday, they have about 50 to 60 people there and 33 members. But they have no title deed. They have no constitution. They have no documents. They did get a bank account a few years ago. That was nice. The money was kept before in an ice cream bucket. I know, that's like bad missionary policy. You can't put that in a book. No business meetings. I tried to get them to do business meetings, but it never caught on. There's no Tsonga word for business. So this is another church. This is the Schleyline's church plant over there across the mountain. And that's a lady who's about to be baptized. We don't have women preachers, although this morning we had some. She quoted the Bible. This is the church, another combined service at Trinity Baptist in Bukota Village, over the mountain, as I just mentioned. And I will only draw your attention to the fact that those signs were printed by a computer, whereas our signs were hand-sewn. But there's no competition here. That woman who was baptized, her name is Grace. We found her on street preaching in 2025. As I said, I'll just find a shade in a village. Whenever there's shade, I'll stand underneath it, play the guitar, raise my voice very loud and say, come, come, if you want to hear the Bible, come, come. If you want a free Bible, come. And then just begin my best Charles Spurgeon impersonation. And people will come, and then people will go. And then every week at the same time I return. I'll do that for about 3 to 6 months in a place. If you come for 10 weeks in a row, you get a free Bible. It's really good when they skip after about week 7, because then I don't give them Bible when they come back, and then I'll say, oh, now I have to start over at 1, and that means they have to listen longer. And sometimes they get angry, but then it saves me a Bible. But then commonly, so this woman was one of 3 who was converted in 2025. I was very discouraged. I think I did 16 preaching points in 2025 and saw no converts. And it weighed on me. There was fasting and prayer and great heaviness. And then her mother, that is that woman's mother, was baptized, and then that woman's sister, and then she was just baptized in April on Easter. And now they said, we'd like to start a church in our home, because they're a number of kilometers from this church, and so it's difficult for them to get there. So who knows? May the Lord have mercy on that village. That's Trinity Baptist, 15 members, pastor deacon building, multiple baptized men, but no families. Families are a big thing. They're a great blessing. One more of the ways, if I were like Martin Lloyd-Jones, I would say the greatest difference between the American church and the African church is the presence of the family. But if you'll remember, I already said the greatest difference between the American church and the African church. I already said that once. I could say it about 7 more times in the sermon, the greatest difference. There are no families. When I say no families, I think we have 3 families in all 8 church plants. 3 families in 8 church plants. That means multiple church plants have no families. So it's difficult to build up a core when you don't have husband, wife, and children. So thank God for what you have. And kids, if you go south and you leave the faith, you're a fool. Well, I don't like the way I was raised. Yeah, go live in the rest of the world. You got it so good. Thank God for where you've got it. Love Jesus. Well, they weren't perfect. Yeah, who is perfect? This is the Rock Church, Valdezia Rock Baptist Church. I cannot remember why we called it Rock. I don't know. They were thinking something. So we had no cash. There's a lot of rocks in the area. So we got there one day. Josh, it's amazing. I get to church. We were meeting under a tent that we had put up, that actually Elam and Trinity gave money to put up a tent. We're meeting under a tent. One Sunday I get there, and there was trenches dug for a foundation. The people came and dug trenches without even, I said, did you make a design yet? No, we just thought it should be like this. So you dug the trenches for a foundation without even a design. Okay, that's what you see. So they said, well, we thought we would dig and then you would get the bricks. And I said, well, you were right on you doing the digging, and I'll join you next time for the digging, but I'm not buying the bricks. So, well, then what can we do? Well, there's rocks around here. So we started with the rocks on the foundation, and then we just went on and on. So this is the road going up to church. The rains are dying down now, but maybe we can see outside. That's the road. Thankfully, it's not raining so heavily. We use our 4x4. Our dear, I don't know why you have your 4x4. Okay. Grandmother Chauke, she came in the rain and mud, and she was going to walk up all of this. Would you come to church if you had to walk up this? It is as steep as those stairs. That hill is as steep as those stairs. Tita Suka. She says, watch out for the cows. And I said, don't worry, they'll move just now. So they tend to move when you get near. So if you're driving in Africa, many stop and wait for them. Don't wait for them. You approach them and show them who's the boss, and then they move. And you usually don't have to hit them, but you just bump them if you do. And I'm serious, you just bump them very nicely. They move as you just touch them and they move the other way. So this hill is very steep, and we're driving up it because that woman was walking in the rain. She was hit by a car in 2017, so she limps. She's also from Zimbabwe, so she speaks Shishona, but her original language is Kalanga, a different language group. So she moved here to get a job. She got a job, but then when she was hit, she lost her job. So now she can't work. She's very poor. And then she heard us preaching on the streets and came, but she speaks another language. So she couldn't understand it clearly. She came for about 2 years, and she was baptized last year. So she spoke in Kalanga, but I can understand enough. So I translated it for the church. They said they accept her testimony, and she has been a solid and faithful church member since then. We thank God for her. And she's walking with a limp, walking like this, 4 kilometers with that at the end. It's like the final boss in a video game as they get up that hill. So there's supposed to be a video there, but I told you I'm no good at tech.
Stuck.
Oh, that's an example of the roads. So that's our pickup truck, and we have a winch on the front, 4x4, and we still get stuck, and it makes for a great life for missionary kids. They come and they tell me, Dad, this is so cool. Like, can I use the winch this time? No, let your sister use it this time. So there's another one, different time, different day, and you see the winch wrapped around the front because the alternator froze. It had a bearing that froze, so it's a perfect storm. Everything bad happened, so we had to hire that tractor from way over on the other side, and then his rope broke, so we had no ropes, and anyway, so then I call my wife, who's amazing. Did I mention that? She drives out with the other 4x4 and tows us home. So she translates songs, she raises kids, she's cooking meals. She doesn't get praised enough. This is Sunday school. That's where our church used to meet. We met under that tent until they just came one day and dug the trenches for a foundation. And there's an albino in the back. Just look at the rock, please. Enjoy that rock. And the pulpit. You tell me you don't want to preach that pulpit. We were going to do it like this. We just couldn't get the rocks to stand on one. There's 20 members there.
All right, guys.
Oh, you know what? It took us 5 years to build that building. The cost was $5,000. That's like the cost of your plane tickets. I want to come over there and do short-term mission, build your church for you. Your travel cost would be more than the cost for our building, okay? And the majority of that cost was on the roof. So we built the whole building for less than $2,000, not counting the roof.
Workday today at Valdezia Rock Baptist Church. It's becoming overgrown, so they're out slashing. Been in for an hour or so, and our men's group is about to start.
So that's where we had been meeting.
I think 5 members, and then a group of some others. These guys doing a good job.
And these are the toilets back there.
Pruso and Taviso, working away. And I'm greatly encouraged because Taviso and Pruso have been talking about evangelism. They've been evangelizing without me, and they've been talking about how they can be more effective and more biblical. Praise the Lord. In 20 minutes, we're going to have the men's group right in here, maybe 20 or 30 young men and some adults. So pray for the Tsongas.
So those 2 guys that were cleaning, those are the guys leading the church right now. The one's 25, dropped out of school at 8th grade, struggles to read, but he's preaching. Several times when he's preaching, we do verse by verse, of course, so we're going through 1 Corinthians. When in April, he's on chapter 11, women's head coverings. So he gets down and he says, it says you have to cover your head, so I think we should do that. Yeah, so we should do that. What do you think, women? So because it says it, so we have to do it. Okay, let's do that one. Okay, verse 11. Power on their head because of the angels. I don't even know what that means. I was reading that and I don't know. So maybe our pastor will come and teach us. Okay, the next verse. But I think the main point here is, the women have to do their thing and the men have to do their thing. And if we all do our thing, then we're right. And it was actually a very good sermon. He brought Christ into it. He said, now remember, this is a great picture of Christ in the church. If you're reading these things, you say, why is this in here? Then it's because the church has to do its thing and Christ does his. So he's got his job and we have our job. And he pressed that on us. And I thought, well, I wish you would have had more nuance there, but the guy, he's learning to preach. And I think he did a great job. So when I came up on them just now in that video, while they were slashing, they were talking about how they can do a better job at evangelism, because Taviso tried to take my method. That's the 8th grade dropout who struggles to read. Taviso tried to do my method of going on the streets and preaching, and then he would give Bibles out of his own accord. I got him a job, and he gets about $200 a month. So he decided that he was going to buy Bibles. A Bible is about $10 each Bible. He bought the Bibles by himself and gave them away without telling me, because he knew if he told me, I'd give them to him for free. Not for free, you guys would pay. So he said, I don't want that. We want to stand on our own. So he went and bought the Bibles on his own, preached on the streets, and gave them out. But then he said, it's not working. They're not listening. And he said, I think what we need to do is we need to come and talk to them. And so he and Peruso, the other guy, were talking about, the pastor said that he's using the white man's method. Let's try our methods. Let's do it. Go, go, go. That's exactly right. Everyone needs to kill Goliath with whatever sling you've got in your hand. Tabu's on the left, Shongi's on the right, my daughter. 20 members, 10 visitors. On average, Sunday, there's 30 people there. And then the only men would be Taviso and Wisdom. When I say men, we define a man as job, wife, or house. Any of those three we count you as a man. So Taviso and Wisdom both have jobs, but they live with their moms. No wife, no house yet. So what do you say about that? But they're meeting on their own for prayer meetings and a Friday youth meeting. Here's another church plant. We're meeting outside, the roads to the church plant. Here's transport to church.
Attending our youth group.
You guys have pickup trucks and you haven't even figured out what they're for. Do you not realize that pickup trucks carry people? Like, you can easily put people in there and it's not difficult. They fit very nicely.
This
is evangelism.
We're inviting people to come.
If anyone had perfect pitch and listened to that video, you might have noticed. This is street preaching. We do this all over the place. So this is how we started a number of churches, but I don't even know what time I started, and I don't want to look at this guy. He'll probably tell me I'm supposed to quit. So I'll just say, I know I've taken too long. We're planting churches. We're trying to do what the Apostle Paul did. Pray for us. Our flesh is too strong. Satan and demons are terrifyingly real. They have bound these dear people in chains. They are under the control and sway of the god of this world. They lie in his power. He is a roaring lion devouring them. Pray that people will go here. If you like what you've seen, come work with us. If you like what you've seen, but I'm annoying, just move about 200 kilometers away. It's a big place. If you say, I'm not good with languages, then start a business, make a ton of money, and give it all to missions. Any questions? In the back, I have some white papers that said Grace to the Tsongas. If you put your name and your email legibly, I send out a prayer letter about once every 2 months. And this is what we do. Thank you so much for your time and your attention. Pastor.
Thank you so much, Seth and Amy. And do you all have a table in the back? Or if you want to just come up and talk to them afterward, we'd love for you to be able to do that. But thank you for staying for Sunday school. You are dismissed.